Hello everybody, it's Stefan from the Contentful Developer Relations team, and what I quickly want to show you is something really cool. You know what it is. With Contentful you can ship content really quickly because you can just set up a content model, fill in the content, and then have the API to get this data back. But you probably know that when you use Contentful heavily, when you have a lot of content running in production, it can become a little bit tricky to transform a content model and content changes on the go. Because when you update your code base or when you need to update your code base, you don't actually want to click 15 buttons in the web app to perform the content model changes or something like that. And this is why we have the Contentful Migration CLI. So using this CLI, you can change content and your content model in a programmatic and automatic way. So how does that work? So the Contentful Migration CLI is an NPM package, which you can install globally. So it's npm install -g Contentful Migration CLI. And then you have the Contentful migration command available. And I thought, well, I'd just show you some use cases for this CLI. So what you see here is a space that holds the data that is powering my private website. And you know how it is, content modeling is hard, so I made some mistakes and I want to fix them now. So what you see is a content type that is called Today I Learned Post. And you see that it holds a list of short text categories. And when I go to another content type, which is post, you see that it's basically the same thing, but called tags. So this was a mistake I made, but I would like to have both content types to include tags. So how could I do that now? And let me show you some code here. So here you see a migration script for the Contentful Migration CLI. And the way it works is that this is Node, right? So it exports a function that then has a migration object available. So to change the Today I Learned content type, I just have to say, hey, I want to edit this content type. I want to change the ID. I want to edit the field. Then to have another name, right? So this is ID, this is name. And then I want to move the field up in the editor. Because when you add or change fields, they will usually be at the bottom of the editor. And tags are really important for the editor experience. So I want them to be a little bit higher. And then I just can execute Contentful Migration here with a space and a token. And let's see. So the migration CLI now tells us what it will do when we say that's okay. So it will update the content type, it will rename the field, it will update the field, and then it will move it. I think this looks pretty good. So let's just execute that. Cool. So let's go back here, and here we are on the post. Let's have a look at the Today I Learned post. Here you see now that the categories became tags, and also the ID changed. This is really cool. So let me show you another example. So on my private website, what I do is I list the events I will go to in the future. And when I built the site initially, I also put the information of where the venue of the event is and in which hotel I'm staying. This is probably not the best idea to put this kind of information into Contentful. And also I stopped using this information. So I want to get rid of these two fields. So how could I do that? So let's just have a look at another script here. So it's the same pattern. There's a migration object available. So I just say, okay, I want to edit the event and I want to drop these two fields. So let's execute this one really quickly. And it is the same thing. The migration just tells us what it will do and asks us, hey, are you really sure you want to do this? I say yes. So bam, 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 bam. Works fine. So let's refresh here. So this, and now the two fields are gone and I programmatically cleaned up the content model for the type event. So these two use cases were actually pretty easy because, well, you could click that in the web interface. But let me show you a bigger one. So what we have, for example, what I do is I list these events, right? And these events then have a country and a city because I want to show some flags and show where this event is. So now the thing is, that after doing 1 year of events, when I look at the events, there will be the same events for a different year. For example, the Excellent Front Trends Conference then will also be in Poland and Warsaw. The problem with this is that maybe I want to put additional information for a certain conference. And when I now have different events for Front Trends 2016, 2017, 2018, I'm duplicating this kind of information, which maybe should go into a conference content type. So how could I approach that now? I could add a reference field to a conference, and then I could put this information manually over to a new entry of the content type conference. The thing is, though, that I have 82 entries stored in Contentful, and I don't want to do this by hand. So how could I script that? And now it gets a little bit more complex, but let's have a look here. So what you see here is a migration script that will take all the events, will create a new content type that is called conference, and then will get the information out of the event and will put it into a new into a new entry type of conference. So let's have a quick look. So the first thing is that I create a new content type that is called conference, and it will be labeled as conference or meetup because, well, I'm also visiting meetups. And this one then has 3 fields. So it will be a name, a country, and a city. For now, that's fine. So and then I'm grabbing the events and I'm creating the reference field. So what I say here is, okay, I want to create a conference field, which should have the name conference, and it should only allow links to entries of the type conference. This is the content type we created up here. And then I can call the migration object, which has a function derive linked entries. And this looks very complicated, but actually it's not that bad. So what we want to do is we want to grab the entries of the type event, and we want to use these fields, its name, country, and city of the entries then. We want to create new entries that will go to this field, which we just created here. And the newly created conference objects will then get information for these fields. Then we define an ID for the new created conference objects. And basically what I do is I just grab the name here, and then I remove the year so that this one will create a new entry of the content type conference, which then just will be hackference. Then I'm replacing spaces with dashes and some weird stuff that is present in some conference names. And then I'm just doing a 2 lowercase because this will become an ID and should be lowercase. And then we've got this function here, which is basically controlling what information goes into the new entries of type conference. So I'm just saying, hey, I want to set the name of the new create conference entry, and it should also be cleaned up, and the year should be gone. Then I'm setting the country and the city, and these values are all available via this input fields object, which is the base for this migration. So and this is it, and then I move the field conference up, and I delete the fields that are not needed anymore. I totally see that this is a lot of stuff to cover. So what we expect now is that, for example, this event here, Hackference 2016, will have a reference to a new entry of type conference, which then is Hackference. These 2 fields here should be gone. And yeah, that is it. So let's kick that off. So there's another script here, boom, and this now may take a while. So let's just make sure that everything that I just told you is correct. So we want to create a new content type which has name, country, and city. Then we want to publish this content type, and we want to create a new reference field which is called conference. And publish, yeah, then we publish this, and then publish content type. Then we have the derived thing, right, which creates new conferences. And then we update everything, and then we clean up at the end. Let's do it. So what you see here now is that there are actually 324 requests going. So I will speed that up and we'll come back in a minute. Almost there. All right. Cool. Now let's update the content types. And we just did a massive migration. So let's have a quick look at this entry here. So as you see now, this entry of type event now has a reference to a conference content type entry, which has the information set that was previously available in this entry, and also country and city are gone now. So when you think of the fact that you have a lot of content in Contentful, this is nothing that you want to do by hand. So what you see here now is that I have I've got 80 new entries of type conference. This is pure magic to me, and I think this is really, really cool. If you're interested to learn more about content migrations, there's this part in the docs, which is called versioning applications using migrations, which will be available here. And if you want to grasp a little bit more this whole idea of how to version and migrate content, we also have this article out there, which is called CMS as Code, which gives you a basic idea on how to migrate content and code together. And that's it. See you next time.